Now, among the Israeli hospitals offering to help with the crisis in Lebanon is the Sheba Medical Center Tel Aviv, the largest medical center in the country. Joining us with the details is Sheba's hospital international spokesperson, Steve Walz. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, why was it important for you to offer your help?
Because we're the largest hospital, not just in Israel, but also in the Middle East. And our CEO or Director General, Professor Yitzhak Kreis, was actually the one, when he was the Surgeon General of the IDF before coming to Sheba, was the one who actually built the field hospital on the border with Syria during the Syrian civil war. And even after he left that job and became the CEO or Director General of Sheba, some of the Syrian people who were injured actually came to Sheba for treatment.
Wow. All right. Now, were you directed in any way to offer aid to Lebanon by anyone, the government, for example?
The government always reaches out to us, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health. We always are getting calls to be on standby just in case. That doesn't mean that it will actually happen, but Sheba is already prepared for any of these eventualities because of the fact that we have something called the Israel Center for Disaster Medicine and Humanitarian Response.
All right. Now, so jumping off of that, I understand that, as you've just said, Sheba has staff with extensive disaster management experience. What can you tell us about that then?
So we have a team that is not sanctioned, but actually licensed by the WHO and the United Nations to jump off to any disaster zone caused by human nature or other things that might happen. For instance, volcanoes in Guatemala, problems in Papua New Guinea, a hurricane disaster zone in Mozambique. We have the capability of putting together teams of various sizes that can be transported within less than 24 hours to any disaster zone in the world, and we can set up a field hospital to treat citizens, soldiers, you name it.
So are you setting up a field hospital then within Israeli borders, or are you sending one out to Lebanon?
No, we haven't been asked to do anything for Lebanon. We stand at the ready to do whatever is needed. We may not even need a field hospital in this case. If soldiers from the UNIFIL, from the United Nations, or citizens come across the border to Lebanon, they would be treated in local hospitals. We don't need a field hospital in this case. And quite frankly, I believe that anyone who comes across the border from Lebanon, if that happens, would probably be treated first in hospitals in the north before we get usually the patients who have serious burns, people who have traumatic head injuries. So we deal with the toughest patients.
All right. So, jumping off of that, we've all seen the very difficult images from the scene of the explosion in Lebanon in Beirut. What are the primary or most frequent injuries that you see from such disasters?
So after, seeing that explosion, terrible explosion yesterday, the two things that would stand out would be flesh burns and traumatic injuries to the head and the body. Sheba has a huge trauma center and one of the most advanced burn units in the Middle East. And these are the kinds of injuries that actually were treated by Sheba from the Syrians who came across the border during the recent civil war.
Wow. All right, now I know that due to the coronavirus, Sheba Tel Aviv is actually operating at nearly 100% general occupancy and over 90% occupancy in the coronavirus ward. How many COVID-19 patients are you receiving right now?
Well, as of today, we have 41. That number hasn't changed in the last 24 hours, but what has changed are the following. We have more and more critically ill patients who have to be ventilated, and that's tragic. We're up to 12 ventilated patients that last week, half that number were being ventilated. And what's even more disturbing are the numbers of people who are walking up to our corona tent outside the emergency room. We're getting between 40 and 50 a day. And as far as the testing is concerned, we're finding between anywhere from 14 to 20% of them being positive for COVID, and that is higher than the national average.
Wow. All right. So with that in mind, do you have room to take in victims from Lebanon should the spillover actually reach you?
we always make room for our friends and neighbors, and even those that we don't have diplomatic relations with. Sheba is blessed with the fact that it has a lot of space, and we know how to manipulate our territory when needed, and we are always looking to have an outstretched hand to anyone in need. Makes no difference who and what they are.
All right, Steve Walz, thank you so much.
Thank you.